You already know what it is. It's Big Pressure TV. Today it's my honor and pleasure to sit down with a dedicated, decorated soldier for Muhammad. A brother who epitomized what it means to want for your brother what you want for yourself. A frontline soldier for truth. I'm talking about none other than Student Assistant Minister of Mosque Number 1, our beloved brother Damarco Muhammad. All praise is due to Allah, beloved. I want you to know I'm honored to have this opportunity, dear brother.
Well, brother, it's my honor, brother, and much, much more.
Yes, sir. Now, before we get into the interview, who was Damarco Muhammad before becoming into the Nation of Islam, and how did the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad impact your mind and change the trajectory of your thinking?
Do you have enough time, brother?
Let's go, beloved.
In the name of Allah, the merciful, the Holy Quran says that if the oceans were ink and the trees were pen, you can exhaust, this knowledge. Coming into the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, brother, has exposed me to so much.
Yes, sir.
Prior to me becoming Damarco Muhammad, I say that I always was, that I just didn't know who and what I was until I was taught and told who and what I am. Prior to coming into the teachings, I was the byproduct of the streets. The streets had that gravitational pull on me, and it led me to prison.
Yes, sir.
I ended up going to prison, for exercising, as I say, conflict resolution with violence. We didn't know how to resolve conflicts.
Yes, sir.
I was at a work site that wasn't befitting of me and encountered some racist activity for the first time directed at me and mine who were working there, my
Yes,
family.
sir.
And I decided to respond with violence. And that violence led me to prison, where I started off with a life bit. I was, as they say, a habitual offender because I was on the run from Ohio, getting caught with half an eighth of kilo of drugs. And I was getting caught with pistols here and there.
Ain't that something? Looking at you now, brother wouldn't even, we know, but people wouldn't even understand.
When you eat a piece of cake, they say, oh, this is good. You may not be aware of all the ingredients in the cake.
Yes.
If you ate the ingredients separately from the cake, it
wouldn't be as good.
So, but then me and who and what I am is an experience. That's typical and, somewhat carbon copy of the average brother. But like I was saying, prior to me being where I'm at now, I ended up going to prison, and while in prison, it wasn't my intentions on embracing anything.
Yes, sir.
I had a great brother who we were friends with out here, Brother Troy.
All praise is due to Allah.
Yes.
Our big brother.
Yes, one of the most powerful black men here in the city of Detroit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I'm honored, and it's a pleasure to be able to say we have a friendship for over 40 years.
All praise is due.
Prior to incarceration. However, that relationship is one of the most consistent because it was always based upon just that.
Yes, sir.
Friendship. I can say that me and my brother, we've been together moving on that spirit of friendship. However, when I went to MR, that's where I ended up going to prison, Michigan Reformatory.
Gladiator School.
Called Gladiator School, brother. Ooh, brother, we got some stories about Gladiator School. And being that you made mention of that, I was known as one always making the weapons.
Yes.
You know how we was up in there as young folk, man. You had to have that hitter.
You gotta have that thumper, that Muhammad.
That was called, you know? So I was running through the prison. Ain't no hood like Dexter Linwood. I might talk about
tough
teachings, man. 100 years.
And count.
Come on, now. However, Brother Troy was involved with the brothers at that time.
Yes, sir.
because he had got to prison before me, and the officers were shaking the men down, looking for contraband.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I'm thinking they're looking for knives, drugs, or whatever,
Right.
smuggling on the yard. But to my surprise, it was a handwritten copy of the Message to the Black Man. Because the teachings at that time, and still are,
Mm-hmm.
some of them are considered contraband.
Yes,
The
sir.
administration don't want you to have them.
Yes,
At
sir.
that time in 1989, 90, we didn't have the teachings the way in which we have them now.
Yes, sir.
Which is very profound. However, I was on the yard and the brothers was trying to get that material back in. Being that I wasn't affiliated, but I knew Troy and he knew me, and we went back. He told one of the brothers by the name of Richie X, he says, "Get with my homeboy over there."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Homeboy, I need you." I said, "Oh, we got something going on, you know?" And the brother came, passed it off to me. To my surprise, I took it to myself. I thought again, it was a weapon, but when I opened it, it was a real weapon.
Ooh, weapon of truth.
Weapon of truth.
Yes, sir.
Handwritten copy of the Message to the Black Man.
Ooh.
Why a handwritten copy?
Mm.
Because we wasn't allowed to have the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We wasn't allowed to have Message to the Black Man. So when we did get things like that,
That's
we
powerful.
cherished it.
Yes, sir.
And what we did was, those were our lessons to write things out. So there was only one Message to the Black Man and one handwritten copy of the Message to the Black Man. I feel honored that the brother trusted me enough
To secure that.
to secure that.
Yes, sir.
But lo and behold, upon reading it,
Mm.
you know how we are, brother. You read something for the first time, I'm making mockery.
Yes, sir.
You know, you get that, some of the weed, we still have weed.
Yeah,
over
yeah.
there.
All
and the
that.
spud juice
Right,
that we was
right,
making.
right.
We was
That
manufacturing
old
wine.
wine.
Brother. Ain't that something? And we wasn't over 18, 19
Ain't no
years
doubt
old.
about it.
But upon doing so, I started making mockery of the teaching.
Mm.
Like, man, these guys, they crazy. They believe in spaceships. Making pretty mockery.
Yes, sir.
And look at me now.
Mm.
Why? What changed? You know, your mother is the closest thing to God.
Yes, sir. Talk that talk.
As a young man in prison, 40 years at the time, I'm trying to get it reduced. I called my mother. I said, "Mom, I'm trying to raise money for an attorney." And she said, "Son, we don't have any money." She said, "I don't know how I'm going to help you." And my mother was very jovial. She used to love to drink that Miller Lite.
Mm-hmm.
You know how we used to get that fluid. She was straightforward and honest. And I think that at that time, in the early 90s, there was something taking place here. My mother wasn't familiar with the Nation of Islam or any conscious thought for that matter.
Yes, sir.
However, there was something going on that brought the minister to her attention. And she says, "Well, hey, man, I can't help you, but I think you need to call Farrakhan."
Mm.
And this was in 19.
That's powerful right there. That's
very
powerful.
powerful, brother.
Stop
I
the killing
these
tool.
things. I wrote these things in an article when I first came home, and our beloved, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I guess he approved of it.
Yes,
and
sir.
Put my article in the final post.
I remember reading it too, beloved.
And in there, as I say now, my mother told me, I didn't know that I would be following in this capacity. But I do say this here to move it forward, brother, to your next question, that I became engaged into the activity as related to the teaching part, because I graduated from high school,
Yes, sir.
honors English. Me and a brother was there with another brother who was a great friend of mine, Brother Zabata.
Yes, sir. Soldier. True
Yes,
soldier.
sir. Soldier.
True
True
soldier.
soldier.
Yes, sir.
And that brother, he's a part of the wind beneath my wing.
All
brother,
praises due.
by the permission of Allah. But that brother asked me to help him check assignments that was given to the brothers, because he was the so-called captain at the time.
Yes, sir.
So he'll come back and ask me and Brother Laron, who's active in the mosque, to go
Yes,
over the
sir.
assignments to help them. So by me again, where, English, I corrected them and sent them back and had the brothers correct them and send them back. So at that time, I'm getting the teaching. Not knowing.
Not even understanding that the seeds is
Yes, sir.
planted.
And be mindful that, and as I tell brothers, at that time, during our soldier, during that dispensation of time,
Yes, sir.
in those early 80s, late 80s, early 90s, until now, the divine effect that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had, because again, we didn't have the teachings as we have them now.
Yes, sir.
Inside. We had a mixture of some of everything. A mixture of more science of American
What we call grafted.
Grafted teachers. Yes, you remember. I don't know if you was there then in 89, 90, but when we went to service, brother, we was coming off of some material that wasn't
Right and exact.
or coming straight from Chicago.
Sir. Yes, sir.
So while we're here, they started opening up more prisons. So you had brothers coming from different institutions there at the institution that I was at. Mind you, I wasn't rotated, as we say. But there was a brother by the name of Kenix Hopkins.
I remember the brother.
I'm walking on the yard, and the brother says, oh, that's the brother that, be out helping the brothers with their, lessons, this, that, and the other. He says, brother, let me ask you something. And they were in a debate about the leadership.
Yes, sir.
Which way it should go. Because there was a different thought from the brothers of MR,
yes,
who were
sir.
younger, coming from Michigan Reformatory. You had the brothers that was in Muskegon, who had some brothers coming in, so they had a particular thought. You had brothers, the older brothers coming from Jackson.
Yes, sir.
So not all of them together. Two things can occupy the same space without becoming one.
It's history right here.
So they was going back and forth, and I was walking the yard, and the brother Ken asked me, he said, brother, what do you think? I said, well, one thing, it ain't all about what I think. I'm going to just share something that y'all gave me out of y'all material. I said, and here the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that God is the author of peace, not confusion.
Yes, sir.
What I'm seeing you all involved in is a bunch of confusion. You all need to get back to the books. Y'all have a great day. So from that point on, I was a brother that brothers,
yes, sir.
come and converse with. And again, I wasn't officially in. But at some point in time, a law saw fit.
Yes, sir. You were being courted.
Absolutely,
yes,
brother.
Sir.
And I thank Allah. He saw, again, this is one of those things where I can bear witness to say that he's all seeing,
yes,
all
sir.
knowing.
Yes, sir.
You see? But at the same time, understanding that I'm being led into a direction that's going to eventually get me an early release from prison.
Yeah. Ooh.
Keep in mind, I started with a life bet. It got reduced to 40, then it got reduced to 20 years
yes,
because
sir.
we stayed in the library. One thing that I did by the permission of Allah, by leading his creation while in the lower station of society known as prison,
yes, sir.
I incorporated some things that I believe would exemplify the spirit and the mission of the Nation of Islam. We studied, brother.
Yes, sir.
You know that.
Diligently.
And one of the mandates was that you have to go to the law library. Where we were, this is where we had our so-called official meetings.
Yes, sir.
Fight your case. Get help. Study your lessons. And by doing so, while we were there, many of us, as you know, was blessed and able to gain enough knowledge from our study to be able to gain access to the courts or to return back to courts and raise the issues to present to a lawyer that would ultimately get them free.
Yes, sir.
Of course, me having the habitual offender on me, I didn't get no good time. So I had to do all calendar years. But lo and behold, 2017, I was working as a diet clerk.
Yes, sir.
At Mount Correctional Facility. And as a diet clerk / cook, I was responsible for ordering food for that part of the population who were sickly. What I began doing was incorporating meals about how to eat to live by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
Now follow this. I I prepared a navy bean salad.
Unheard of in there.
They told me to order the northern bean or
Yes,
something
sir.
with it, but
That's what it was.
navy bean. We did them small navy beans, you know, and a beet salad. And a brother was coming through the line, and he seen that there was only one left, and I said, "Well, brother, you have to get permission to get this, you know." "Oh, brother, you can get them." I said, "Brother, I'm not finna break no rules."
Right.
However, an officer came in, went to the back, asked the stewardess, "Hey, can I have this?" The stewardess said, "Yes," gave it to him. The brother's up under the impression that I gave it to him and wrote a grievance. The grievance went all the way up to the warden's office. The warden came in one day and asked to see me. Here is my challenge. What was the meal? How did you go about doing it? Do I put Elijah to the side?
No, sir.
Do I lie?
Speak the truth regardless of circumstances.
I said, "No, sir. This is what I prepared, and this is where I got it from." And individuals who was consuming this here, their health became better. They didn't want to go to the med line anymore.
Right.
Because of what Brother Damarco was serving them on the diet line that came from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
How to eat to live. Yes, sir.
So by me having this conversation with the warden, he turns and goes and asks the officer, Officer Shaw, "What's the situation with that young man?" Officer Shaw come back and lets me know. He says the warden wants to speak to you.
Officer Shaw's good people too.
Yes, he does. And I said, what's going on, brother? He says, "All I know," he told me, "that out of all of his years of working in m.d.o.c, he never heard a prisoner articulate a grievance the way I did."
Yes, sir.
Fast forward, 3 weeks later, I was going to level 1. Warden Roman announced it. Went to Lansing, however, and acted for me to get my good time and disciplinary credits and all that good stuff. And I had so many because I had been down for almost 20 years, brother.
Yes, sir.
And that automatically put me in level 1, you see. So again, prior to me being Brother Damarco Muhammad, your brother,
yes, sir,
just as any typical brother, but I grabbed hold and began to follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan while in prison, in the prison study group, studying self-improvement, which is the basis of community development.
Sir.
So those things help fashion and shape me to realize who I am, what I am, and taught me principles to use in order for me to be successful while I'm here. So I remain there and continue to be watered and nurtured by staying in the classroom.
Yes, sir.
He teaches us today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, stay in the classroom. Stay in the classroom. You know, many of us,
you qualify yourself to be a master.
You have to. That's how you have to. That's the only way in which you're going to be able to get to the next level.
Yes, sir.
You have to remain humble, steadfast, and steady, and active.
Yes, sir.
You see, it's a difference from receiving, as I tell all of my young brothers, all of my brothers who know of me.
Yes, sir.
And they know, hey, brother, okay, you ain't came to the mosque, but at least come there and salute that flag, brother.
Yes.
Get there and salute that flag. You go back to the yard. You better go there. The minister done too much. I'm a frown on you. But you make your decision as to where you want to go.
Yes, sir.
That's between you and Allah.
Yes, sir.
But I'm going to always encourage you as he encourages. Make every man and boy and therefore I. So again, that's why I'm at the same time. You must.
Yes, sir.
Live according to your decision. So prior to me being Brother Damarco Muhammad, brother, like I said, one troubled youth. Like I said, grew up in the city of Detroit, Dexter, Linwood area. You know, my story is typical of any other black male story. You know, graduated from Central High School, went to Durfee Middle School, Brady Elementary, and that's where my work is at.
Yes, sir.
To this day.
Yes, sir. All praises due.
I believe in returning and becoming productive. You know, so there's much to be said about that. But it's my prayer, brother, that I was able to answer your question.
Yes, sir. Definitely, beloved. All praises due. Now, let me ask you this. We all heard the saying, when God is making a man, he does not make it easy. And we can bear witness that our path, our journey wasn't an easy journey. We went through struggle. We faced difficulty. We went through, challenges that some people couldn't even comprehend or understand. If you talk about having 40 years of having a life sentence and you have to wake up every day with the mental fortitude to face that, to overcome that, and more importantly, to believe that you're going to be blessed with a second opportunity. It takes a lot of fortitude. But the question is, how do we correlate that with the present conditions of our youth today, who they coming up the same way we come up, maybe even a little worse, because certain things have been implemented on them at this particular hour that wasn't implemented on us, you know what I mean? But how do we correlate that with when God is making a man, he does not make it easy?
Well, you have to realize that in correlating,
yes, sir,
you're putting two related pieces together.
Yes, sir.
In this instance, we're talking about the youth. There's an age difference, your age and his age.
Yes, sir.
However, we experiencing the same thing. In this world, you know that as scriptures has taught us, that, Pharaoh devised a plan, to destroy, the black male.
Yes, sir.
That same attitude, that same program exists today.
In effect.
So that's the connection, all right? As it relates to making a man, once you come into the realization that you are put in the furnace of affliction to be purified, to be cleansed.
Yes, sir.
One thing that man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan shared with me, I always take it personal.
Because it was directly with you.
Yeah. He says, in a tape, I'm not going to call the name right now.
Yes, sir.
But we was in a facility, Brooks, and we were separated. Level 4 on one side, the school building, law library, and then level 2 on the other side. We weren't able to communicate. So a brother from level 2 wanted to get a cassette tape to level 4. Mind you, it's contraband.
Yes, sir.
So I was always in the library, and I established a relationship with the staff over in the school building, those who was the clerks and whatnot, because they was used to seeing us coming up in there. So a brother said, would you pass this tape to the brothers over there in level 4? Another breaking the rule.
Right.
This is God. We need this.
Right.
I put it into my legal work, and I was hoping that I wouldn't get shook down at the officer's podium, but I made my way over with this tape. Didn't look at it. Didn't know what it was until I got back to my cell.
I think I know what it is.
And Brother LaRon can bear me witness. I pulled the tape out, tape title, How to Get Out of Jail.
Yes, sir. How to Break Confinement.
By the Honorable Minister Lewis,
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm like, well, in listening to that tape, I can go to many different points he made. But one point that I feel as though he directed at me and that just shot me off with my fight for freedom is when he said, you may be guilty, but you're not responsible. The mindset that we had,
that's beautiful,
was a mindset given by this demon. We his little pawns. This knowledge that we think that we have of ourselves, it's not the true knowledge of ourselves.
Yes, sir.
You see? So the young men nowadays came up the same way we came up with this knowledge of destruction, of self-hatred.
Yes, sir.
Self-denial.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You understand? So with that being said, crime is a given.
Right.
You're going to play your role because that's all that saturates, because it's all a part of the divine scheme to destroy you and send you that way. So we both end up going that way. So in making a man, you have to understand, how do I take these hardships? How do I take these elements? How do I take these situations and circumstances to help mold me? He says that we were in the lowest station of society. The lowest station of society.
Yes, sir.
When you grow in a plant, brother, you drop a seed into the earth.
To the depth.
You got to get it down below. We're in the lowest station of society. So we turned prison into a fertilized environment upon which we grew up out of that and became successful.
Yes,
for
sir.
those brothers like yourself. Those I can name a slew of brothers.
Yes, sir.
Who was there. Just as I would tell these young brothers who are going there or who are there, this is what you must do. Impregnate yourself with this knowledge. You will impregnate yourself and outgrow the wound of prison, and prison will let you out. How do I know?
Living testament.
I'm an example of that.
Yes, sir.
Surrounded by many brothers who had life. I just made mention of Brother Sherrod.
Yes, sir.
How did he get out up under a life bit? It was Brother Larry 7X who was in a law library with us, who discovered an issue that allowed Brother Sherrod to get back.
All praise due.
Brother Troy went back to court after receiving
All
25
praise
years. How did he do that? He was in a law library. And there was someone who discovered an issue for him to return. And then when he
At the
returned,
proper time.
he had a great record.
Yes, sir.
Because of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan
Yes,
in the study guides.
Yes,
That
sir.
study structure,
Yes,
brother.
sir.
So again, in correlating and understanding how to make a man, we have everything we need today. You can go out and inhale the truth of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught to us by the minister,
Teach,
brother.
teach.
You can feed off of these things, brother, to grow mentally and even to grow physically. You see?
Yes, sir.
So the same thing that applied to us applies to them. So the correlation is you have to do for self or continue to suffer these consequences. Nowadays, it's very, the situation is very unique. The times are very unique. You have to know how to uniquely bottle this thing, how to fashion this thing,
Yes, sir.
how to wrap this thing, and give it to the youth.
Yes. Ooh.
You see?
That's beautiful.
Yes. You can't come with the same old soup warmed over.
Right.
You gotta understand that same old soup can spoil too.
Most
You can
definitely.
food poison someone, and you talk about these are teachings, these
Right.
are teachings. But you're poisoning some. No, man. You gotta know how to get the teachings as pure.
As
by
the
way
minister
of an
said.
example.
Yes, sir.
That's the thing. You got to bear witness now. It's no more talking. You have to bear witness. I received the word. You received the word. Now we have to get this word to the youth. And the best way of doing it is setting an example, bringing them up out of an environment, surrounding them with those who have been there, but at the same time not judging them, not talking down at
No,
them,
sir.
but you have to lift them.
Elevate them.
Yes, sir.
You know how we
That's
taught, yes sir, beloved, how we taught us the light of knowledge, as the light of the sun strikes the earth, right? And it causes to spin or rotate on its axis at the terrific speed of 1,037 1/3 miles per hour.
Yes, sir.
So does the light of knowledge when it strikes the mind of a human being. When you came in contact with these teachings, and these teachings begin to impact your mind and impregnate your mind with the reality of God, and it was at that point that you were able to elevate into realities that your mind couldn't even comprehend, accepting that the black man is God, and bearing witness that the black man is God, and then having the audacity to achieve or even reach to that level of thought versus a person who, as you talked about how you said, what was the word you used? We was buried up. We was in society. It's
The lowest
the
station of society.
lowest station of society. So even when you look at our mentalities, right? You look at our young brothers in our communities who think they niggas, who think they on demon time, who think they gangsters, who think they thugs, who think they killers, who think they all this, right? But when the light of knowledge hits your mind and you allow your mind to be receptive to that word and to that message, that's when you begin to rise. That's when you begin to elevate. This what brings us to the next questions. What is it about the program of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that brings out the best in a black man? Because when I'm looking at you, I see the best. When I look at our brother, student minister Troy Muhammad, I see the best. When I look at our brother Sean Muhammad, I see that. When you look at certain men who represent this particular standard, you're looking at the best. But in order for you to reach that level of even believing in your mind that you was the best, you had to accept it. So
Absolutely.
what is it about this program, beloved, that brings out the best in a black man?
We're taught that a fruit is the best.
Yes, sir.
You were taught that too.
Constantly training and conditioning.
Most definitely. So we all have within us that substance of being the best in submission to God.
Oh,
If we were able to do it then, up under all of the weight of threats, we had the audacity to be following a man.
hell.
Teaching that said the white man a devil. You in prison, you know how many times we were castigated, we was maligned, we was threatened for these teachings?
Paid the price.
Most definitely. You had those laughing at us as though we wasn't going to make, but God was with us. Because we remained steadfast.
Yes, sir.
Now, how? Dr. Muhammad says in the Muslim Rule of Conduct that as Muslims, we recognize and acknowledge that we are members of the Creator's nation and act according to this in the name of Allah. We act according to this in the name of Allah.
That's powerful.
This requires actions and deeds, words and lip service.
Yes, sir.
As members of the Creator's nation, this is what we must do.
Act accordingly.
This is the only way they're going to be able to see an example.
Yes, sir.
You see, we have to act according to that we are members of the Creator's nation. But let's go to the beginning, where the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, a man of only a third grade education, and most of us may think that he was using double words when he says recognize and acknowledge.
Yes, sir.
What happens with most of us, as the minister say, we all know the truth, but we're not strong enough to live according to what the truth dictates. So to recognize, most of us we're comfortable with recognizing something.
I see it.
Recopy.
Yes, sir.
Goes on in your comments.
Bring it back to memory.
It just stays there.
Yes, sir.
Over and over again. Yeah, black men we the best. It just stays up in there. But you gotta act on the
yes,
knowledge.
Sir.
He
yes,
says
sir.
recognize and acknowledge. You see?
That's powerful.
You act on the knowledge of knowing what it is that you recognize.
Yes, sir.
And it's hard to do so, especially in this world, because we fear the loss of everything other than Allah Himself.
Yes, sir.
So for the young people, we have to look at that's a loss. We playing a part in the loss and the demise and the eventual demise of another generation. Because look back when we were coming.
Yes, sir.
All right? Our president, Joe Biden, he was the architect of many laws that ushered us into prison. Many of us who went at the time I went, Dad may have been strung out on dope or crack or heroin. Many of us got a bunch of time for selling it. Many of us lost our status as men in the family by using it. So when you wipe out, you wipe out your dad, you wipe out the big brother that was walking up and down the street. He was an example for us back in the day.
Right.
You know, I could point to Mr. Rivers, who's working down at Ford. He got his whole family in the house. Until drugs come in.
That's powerful.
And ravish the family.
Right.
He's gone. I had my uncle to look at. What happened to Uncle? He got busted with kilos. Now he's gone. What about my big cousin? You know, he got caught up with the guns and coming over and showing us, and we fascinated with it. But he get caught gun running.
Now he's gone.
Now he's gone. What example do the youngsters have? The same thing today. That weight is on our shoulders.
Yes,
because
sir.
we come to the realization that we can no longer recognize, but we must acknowledge that we are members of the Creator's nation, and they are too. And we have to set that example for them. We have to go the extra mile now.
Yes, sir.
We are in Armageddon.
Right now.
We are in a war. So some of us have to say, who's going to be the frontliners in this? To be able to set an example for these young brothers who never had a good example. It was rare in between. So you get mad when you see them sagging their pants. That's because they kept coming up to the prison to see us when we didn't have no belts. And we probably had oversized trousers and blues to wear.
Right.
And we thought it was slick. So they take that style out here now. Not knowing the part that you play. Yeah. You just continue to recognize what you don't want to acknowledge. You know the truth.
That's deep.
But you have to live according to what the truth dictates today. And that only can come by way of your humility.
Yes, sir.
And tapping off into the will of Allah. The will of Allah today is that the black man must be raised.
All praises due.
Indeed.
Now, you know, Tupac said, if there's no hope for the youth, then the truth is there's no hope for the future, right? That's a powerful statement.
Absolutely.
So when a lot of our people, I'm sure, because, you know, we have a connection with the youth. Like, you can't be in a line of work that you in or what I strive and aspire to do without having a connection with the youth. You got to have your finger on the pulse to know where they at, what they want, what they desire, right? So when our people look at the condition of our youth, most people are frightened. They're afraid because the conditions that have been purposefully created with our youth, right? So, you know, when Tupac made that statement, if there's no hope for the youth don't believe they have any hope. So they act in a savage manner, in a barbaric manner. This is why they proclaim to be on demon time, because they have lost all hope in a generation before them. They have lost all hope in the political system, the educational system, and every other system, in the religious institutions and things of that nature, right? So brothers like us who understand what it takes to restore the hope. Because the minister talked about fishing one time, and he said, when you fishing, you got to know the bait. When you fishing for a particular fish, you must know the bait that they like. He said you must be skilled with your rod. But then he said when you catch the fish, you must know what to do with them. So the thing is, how do we restore that feeling back in our youth to bring them on board with the truth, to make them believe that they should believe and acknowledge?
You know, the book says that there's going to come a time where the child will be against the parent.
Yes, sir.
But there will also be a time where the hearts, the children will be turned back.
Oh.
The hearts of the parents will be turned back.
It will be Elijah. Malachi.
It'll be turned back.
Yes, sir.
There's a turning back now. Because now we come into the realization that, this hopelessness that's in the youth, we have to remove it. So you remain steadfast in doing what you're doing. You see, by setting an example, by getting out doing the work.
Yes, sir.
In the name of Allah, benefits and merciful, may Allah be pleased with the Prophet. Prophet Muhammad, in the Holy Quran, was chastised by Allah for worrying, fretful by people not accepting the message. My only instruction to you was to get out and get the message as clear as you can.
Yes,
Don't worry about whether or not somebody's going to accept it. And see, this is the thought that we must have.
Yes, sir.
We can't become dismayed. We have to just deliver the word the best we can, be the best example as we can, but being consistent and doing it in an environment where it's going to be effective and not just amongst each other.
Right.
So this is why I said I employ you and I applaud you and I tip my hat to you
Well,
because of what you're doing. I see some of the other brothers that you have, some of the other youngsters, whatnot, because now you're allowing them to express themselves, but at the same time, you have the opportunity to drop a seed on them.
Yes, sir.
In hopes that it will grow one of these days.
Inshallah. Yes, sir.
Inshallah.
Yes, sir.
His will and guidance, brother.
All praises due. Now, you said something earlier, and I said we was going to get back to that point. When the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad made this statement, and it's tying into what we're talking about. Make all men and boys join the FOI. The word make has in-depth meaning to it. Like when you make something, you're creating, you're fashioning you're causing it or calling it to be that in which you desire. He said, make all men and boys join the FOI. So it goes back to what you said about being the example. That's the best way to make, because the mind responds faster to what it see versus what it hear, being that light travels faster than sound. So when you see an example, the mind is going to respond quicker to that example. So talk about that part. How do you make all men and boys join the FOI?
Well, I'm going to say this. When I first heard it as a child.
Yes, sir. You probably had the same sentiments I had.
When I first heard it as a child. Make all men and boys FOI. Meaning every time you see the brothers, they should be FOI.
Yes, sir.
Try to get them to come, to the service so that you can, give them these teachings. But as I grew, as I matured, I realized that the word make.
Ooh.
You see, I'm about to make you go in there and eat that food.
Got a little force behind it.
Brother, let's come over here and make this chair. Okay? Two different connotations here.
Right.
Make all men and boys FOI. To me.
Yes, sir.
Ain't no word. You gotta make it. Because again, just look at it.
Yes, sir.
You have many of us who have been made FOI. I'm FOI now.
Yes, sir. Ooh. You touching on something. I see it.
But it's nothing like putting that spirit inside of that body instead of it being a symbol, instead of substance. You see? Because many of us are still struggling.
Yes, sir.
We in the fold.
Yes,
we in the trenches. We still in the class. But as I grew, make them. There's no compromising. Every time you encounter another man or boy, black man or boy, you should in your mind make it your business to make them that by doing what? Not only set an example, giving them the word.
Yes, sir.
Giving them an invite, but more importantly, ushering them through the process.
Yes, sir.
See, that's something that many of us don't
part.
do.
That's
very critical.
Yes, sir.
That's very critical, because as you go through school, you have a teacher or professor that gives you the necessary information, but you have an institution that ushers you through. All right? This is a divine classroom of God.
Yes, sir.
Well, this is what we're doing. We're making you that into God's. We're making you into the nature in which you were created. This is why it's make, not create.
Yes, sir.
Because you're using something that God already put here for us. God created us. So we can't recreate us. No, Allah did this.
Yes,
God did this. But we can make something out of it.
Yes, sir.
Just as he made a monster, we can make a God.
Yes, sir.
My last point with a little levity here. I remember watching Frankenstein.
Ooh.
And at some point in time, this wicked doctor named Frankenstein put together all of these different body parts and made this monster. Until the monster realized, who making me do this? Something in my head. It's you. We coming to the realization, not the monster that you portray us to be. We know that, hey, we may be guilty, but we're not responsible because it's.
No, what happened to Frankenstein? Right.
Frankenstein, you know? So again, doctor, we're on you now, man. It's time for the truth to be revealed, brother. It's time to make.
Yes, sir.
Make. So every little man that you have within the influence of sound of your voice, you should want to make them that, brother.
All
That's
praises. So tell us what's next for the brother Damarco, because we didn't get a chance to touch on all the great and wonderful things that our dear brother have going on. But let the people know what they can expect from our beloved assistant minister, Damarco Muhammad.
Well, one thing I can say, being that this is the very first time, brother, that I've decided to do something like this here.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to make my presence known more on the social media platform as it relates to sharing and bearing witness of what has happened to me. I was once blind, but now I see. I was once deaf, and now I can hear. I was once a lame and didn't have anything to say, but that man gave me a lot to say.
Yes, sir.
And everything I say, or everything that I do, I'm put forth more of an effort to make it reflective as an acknowledgement of me being a part of this Creators Nation.
All praises due.
Business-wise, I'm getting more, and I've been blessed to be able to come home and start a business, to become a property owner, to be able to now write checks.
Yes, sir.
You know, brother, that was one of my 5 things that I wrote prior to coming home. I believe that you should write your history and walk into it.
Yes, sir.
And it was 5 things I asked Allah to bless me by following this instruction.
What it feel like to write them checks, beloved?
Let me back up. I don't want to sound arrogant.
No, sir.
Or pompous.
No, sir. Motivation.
But I just want to say, I'm saying this to say about the power of prison reform. That's all I'm speaking. You know, we were touched, it moved us, it causes us to rotate at a certain speed.
Yes, sir.
With a certain vibration,
Ooh.
and we acted on it.
Teach.
And many of us, as you see, brother, we've been able to experience money, luxury, good homes, friendships, and all walks of life, brother. You see, that came by way of our submission.
Yes, sir.
Many of us are not born for anything, and then at the same time, it puts us in a position to want for our brother what we won't have for ourselves, so we're going to do for the next brother.
Yes, sir.
There ain't no hesitation about it. So what's next for Brother Damarco is to get our brothers to realize what they really are. You see,
that's
the
beautiful.
time and what must be done.
Yes, sir.
The power. You see, I'm going to keep reiterating this. The power in the prison reform ministry, as taught to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the power that exists there, brother. Because of our experience, which can be similar to the experience of all the wise and great ones who had to go into confinement.
Yes, sir. Ooh.
And get their message.
In a dark
Why
and cold
can't we?
hour.
That's where we were at. There were many who was in prison, you see, and got their message. Look at the value of what you hold, the power of what you hold from your experience. We're dealing with a pandemic, and after a pandemic or after a plague, he says that a famine is coming. Just imagine the experience that we have, brother. This is what makes you powerful. Because during the pandemic, we didn't break down because we were able to deal with a situation and circumstance like none other because of our conditioning.
Yes, sir.
You see, now famine about to take place where you see every food pantry with a line that's wrapped around a building or wrapped for miles, brother. How are we preparing for that? He has prepared us for that.
Yes, sir.
Disaster preparedness. We're supposed to unite. We're supposed to pool our resources together. Well, when brothers from prison decide that we're ready to stand up, brother, we're able to deal with any and everything that comes our way because we was at a point in time where we experienced something that the average haven't experienced. Freedom, justice, and equality.
Yes, sir.
You see? That experience is now in our DNA so that we don't have no time. No time to entertain anything other than ascension, going up because we've been at the bottom. You see? What's happening now out here in the streets and in the world? If we was just to stand up, just imagine this.
I love your spirit, beloved. You teaching hard.
Every man, black man and woman who has been to prison had family. We don't even want to count the numbers of black men and women who have been in prison. But just count the family members that came along with that. If we was just to unify and make our own union, make our own political bloc, because we understand, the book says that there's going to come a time where one without letters will be presented.
Yes, sir.
We see the condition of the people up under the political scheme. It's ran by those who have letters behind their name. You got a master's degree, you a doctor, you got a PhD. But why is the condition of the people the way it is? It takes someone who has had an experience in order to change the condition of the world. When you call AA, when you call the drug hotline, the person that they got on the other line is who? A person who didn't experience that. Then talked about that. He could talk to you about that experience. Not someone who just been taught by theory. I went to the University of Michigan.
Right.
I have my doctor's degree in penology. Hold on, dude. I got 20 years of experience.
Right.
Who are you to come tell me something? You just want me to be prescribing to this way of thinking of this world so you can continue to use me as a tool and as a slave. And this is something we got to get rid of the shame. I'm going to leave on this note on this particular subject unless you have more for me, dear brother. We were invited, and I was blessed to accompany Minister Farrakhan's state and local representative, Minister Troy. And we were invited by a reverend to attend an event where Reverend Jesse Jackson was at. And Reverend Jesse Jackson at the time was promoting Hillary Clinton's run for presidency. So me and our brother, we come in, we sit down. And Reverend Jackson did his thing. So he was about to get ready to leave, and as he was leaving out, he turned around and said, hold it. He said, I really want to speak on Hillary Clinton's, her platform about prisons, about the justice system. I'm paraphrasing.
Yes, sir.
And he said that she has this plan, this, that, that, and the other. He said, but what I want you all to realize is that when Jesus went to the cross, he went to the cross as a convicted felon. And at the time, he was looking at me and my brother. I look up at him. Later on, we talked about it. But now, you see where we at.
Yes, sir.
Coming out of prison. Being in the leadership.
And what it means, the significance of the time.
It means much more. Not just to me or to my brother or those who have been in prison, but what it does say. That there was one, by the grace of God, who was able to reach in the inside.
Yes, sir.
And start to hew stones and rocks and mountains without hands. Because many of those hard-headed stones, you and I, those mountain of brothers who came home and made a significant difference by way of his molding and shaping from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as he taught us in self-improvement, the study guides. You see, that was a divine time. And inshallah, I would like to speak on it more, but I'm going to speak more to it the third week of Sunday at Mosque number 1. I'm blessed and given permission by our Minister Troy to carry the lecture. And I'd like to speak more into that. That was a divine dispensation of time for the prison institution here in the state of Michigan. You see, and many of us are totally unaware of the part that we play.
And the significance of the hour that we're presently in.
Just look at it. You know, we can summons 50 to 100 men easy.
Yes, sir.
Easy. You see? Now just multiply that. You see? And again, have you ever heard this term? No. Let me say this. Do you remember when the minister in the class stood up and said that he would take these teachers to every nook and cranny?
Yes, sir.
To me, that included the prison.
Yes, sir.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stood up in 1981 to rebuild. Again, for the viewing audience.
Yes, sir.
Reflect back on my words when I opened. In the late 80s, early 90s, we did not have the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad in the m.d.o.c. I can't speak for nowhere else.
Right.
I'm just only going by actual fact. And many brothers who look at this here, who can attest to this. When we used to go to service, we had to look for the pictures. We had to look for the flag.
Right.
At some point in time, the picture that we had of Master Farad Muhammad came up missing.
Right.
And you know what happened then.
Yes, sir.
So we better turn this over.
Right.
But we grew from that.
Yes, sir.
But my point being, brother, is that he stood up, and it was his faith that allowed us to grow, man, while we were there. And look at where we are now. Being able to change a reality.
And doing it.
And most definitely. But it, by the grace of Allah, and I thank him over and over again, brother. He saved a wretch like me. I understand that song when I used to hear my great auntie sing it. Now I know, because it wasn't my prayers. I believe that it was the sincere prayers of my mother, my grandmother, my great aunt who raised me that allowed me to be where I'm at, brother.
Yes, sir.
And as I told you when I was in Alabama, when you asked me to come do this, I
Yes,
said,
sir.
yes, brother. And I was telling you, you know, and telling the other brothers, man. But y'all don't know y'all brothers to be judgmental on brothers' acts. Because we know who and what you are.
Yes, sir.
Because you're us. You're us. And we know what you hold. We know what's in you.
Yes, sir.
The minister done told us. He done showed us. Now it's time for us to stand up and bear witness to facts. And I know we can, but many of us know the truth. We're not strong enough to live according to what this truth dictates, brother. And the truth dictates that now time to follow the leader, man.
Yes, sir.
Everything else we done tried has failed. Every institution, every school of thought, every religion, it has all failed.
And you know what they say, what comes after everything else is failed.
Islam.
Yes, sir.
True submission.
Yes, sir.
Not no Islam as you all may think, coming from our Arab brothers and sisters in the East. No.
True Islam.
No, true. Because they have been subjected by this sting of this enemy, of this white man, this Satan. You see, we're coming with Islam that goes back to the very beginning. You see, we are from God.
Yes, sir.
Direct. What do you mean directly, brother?
Direct is saying straight
we
from
We say that.
the
Straight
essence.
From. Prove it at no limit of time.
I created you from a single essence.
So let me ask you this here. The blood that's rolling through your veins,
Yes,
who does
sir.
it belong to?
Allah.
I can't argue with that. But can you tell this young man who finna walk up in here, you tell him, hey, your blood from the essence of the Lord, you from the essence. Your blood is essence. How can you show that to him in no limit of time? Hey, young man, when the last time you had a bloody nose? You know that blood, that substance that came out the red stuff. Who does it belong to? Don't belong to you.
Yes, sir.
You think it do. And this is when you're able to remove the arrogance of a people. My blood. You talking about? This is what God gave it to me. How?
Right.
How to prove that?
Right.
We studied. You have a DNA that came from your mom and your dad. 23 chromosomes on each to be exact. They came together in the form of a substance known as semen and the egg inside of her. That's where that union took place, and from that one explosion, motion is made. But we already know that. What's the first law? Motion. What's the second?
Order.
has to be some order to it. So it has to go through stages of development.
Process.
That now a whole baby is born. So that blood that's in your veins belongs to your mother and father. And likewise, let's do the math. So the blood that's in their veins going all the way to their great parents. This is why it's so important for us to understand our ancestry as well.
Yes, sir.
Because with that truth, you discover so much. So it gives you a greater understanding of why the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says that out of all of our studies, history is the most qualified to reward the research. So now we're dealing with the research of you. And I'm going to make this point as to what's happening today with why and how crafty this devil is with keeping us divided in names and labels. But that blood, brother, when you travel and take it back, then you can say, aha, from one blood came all nations. So teach the Bible in the book of Genesis. And in that word Genesis, you have the root word gene, a beginning of something. Who are you talking about here? So that blood travels all the way back beyond 6,000 years, which is the actual birth of the Caucasian. So if it goes back millions and trillions of years, it's going back to the very essence
of the originator.
That's how you tell this young man.
Yes, sir.
This is one of the tools. Let me say this is not how you do it, as though that's it.
Yes, sir.
This is one of the tools given to you by the Most High Obligement. It's in your toolkit.
Yes, sir.
The minister done poured out all the tools, showed us how to use. Now we just have to do the same thing, beloved.
Yes, sir.
You see? So from one blood. And I wanted to speak to this. I find it. No, we're going to do that. Part 2.
Yes, sir.
If allowed.
Inshallah.
But back to you. This is your program, brother.
Beloved, you say part 2. If you say part 2, we're definitely going, by God's permission, arrange a part 2 because the people need to hear from our beloved brother, student assistant minister Damarco Muhammad.
Praise be to Allah.
It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. Now we know we got Savior's Day coming up. Tell the people briefly.
Many apologies. Please forgive
why they need to tap in.
Yes.
I got you. I'm my brother's keeper. Yes, sir.
The war of Armageddon has begun. You see, brother, what's happening. Our division would be our demise.
Yes, sir.
Our unity would be stronger than the atomic bomb. Language that you're hearing all over the world. Jesus says that there will come a time, a perilous time, and there will come a time when you hear rumors of wars. So nowadays you're hearing everything about nuclear weapons, atomic weapons. But what's more powerful than that, brother, is our unity. And I believe this is a time, just as all times, for you to come and hear from the man of God in our midst, my Jesus, and he's yours, whether you want to accept him or not.
Set yourself.
I'm the minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
To deliver this weighty word, this timely word, and this message directly from God, which shows that God has still found favor in us by leaving us with a mercy, with a grace, to be able to come and put this thing in continued perspective. He's always done it. You're going to hear him say everything is in the past and some.
Yes, sir.
Because every time you open up your Quran, brother, you're not expecting to go and read a different Quran. That'll take away from its sacredness, brother. You have 1,000 different Bibles. But every time you go to that Quran, brother, you're going to get the same book, right?
Yes, sir.
Every time you listen to him, you're getting the Holy Quran. You're getting that and some, which takes us beyond.
A higher level.
He's taking us beyond that. We operating as though we're still waiting on a judgment and not be preparing for the hereafter.
Yes, sir.
That's where we should be. So again, I employ and I encourage everyone in your listening audience, viewing audience, to come and hear. Please, put down the misinformed thoughts. Put down the negativity. Put down the division. Put it all down. The
Yes,
Come
sir.
hear from him yourself. So Savior's Day, brother, 2023 is going to be in Chicago, as we said. You know, the title. That's a weighty title. That's a timely title. And again, you know, we're taught in our prayers. We seek refuge in the Lord from anxiety and grief. Look at all the anxiety and grief that's going on, brother.
Talk to him.
You have a man who's going to give you a knowledge to relieve you of that. That's an answered prayer.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
Allah, seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. Well, come listen to the man of God now, miss. He's going to give you instruction. He's going to give you information. He's going to give you a knowledge that allows you to be relieved from your anxiety and your grief, brother.
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah.
Yes, sir.
Once again, it's our dear brother, assistant student minister, Damarco Muhammad. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you on Big Pressure TV. Any last words, dear brother?
Big pressure.
Yes. Say less.
Big pressure.